If I was writing a film about Hollywood right now, the current state of affairs in Tinseltown would be perfect. You've got the SAG-AFTRA Industrial Action, you've got the Writers Guild of America Industrial Action, then you've got Barbieheimer making so much money, an excuse to print money. I suppose Tinseltown right now doesn't know whether it should laugh or cry. If this was any normal week in Hollywood, people would be celebrating Barbieheimer, even the studios who had nothing to do with it, because it sets a new precedent. This is kind of a renaissance, the breaking away from the superhero genre, that you can make films that are non-superhero and they can make a lot of money. But what are the lessons of Barbieheimer? What is the lessons from Barbie that can be learnt? Positive marketing. The positive marketing drive of Barbie is one of the major reasons that this film has been so successful. We can't underestimate that people have gone, celebrated this movie, enjoyed going to cinemas, and that's the point. This is something that hasn't happened in a long time. But I just want to meet the person who came up with the Barbieheimer marketing drive, the Barbie marketing drive. It's been absolute genius, because the key to any marketing is telling people you can't afford to miss this event. If you miss this event, you're out of the loop. It's like that damn awful Prime drink. People felt if they didn't buy that Prime drink, then they would be out of the loop. Years ago, if you didn't have a yo-yo, you'd be out of the loop. If you didn't have a Beanie Baby, you'd be out of the loop. It's about creating a trending event. It's about creating a fashionable event. But the genius of this is that this marketing drive made people think if they didn't go and watch Barbie, then Oppenheimer, they would also be out of the loop. There's people who would never have touched Barbie with a barge pole that went to see Barbie. And in the same strength, there's people who would never have touched, Oppenheimer with a barge pole, who also went to go and see that movie straight after they saw Barbie. This has reinvigorated the cinematic model. And I would say, please give us more of this positive marketing. Instead of shaving against the grain, the marketing of Barbie celebrated the character, the trailers, a film that's utterly pink. In fact, pink is my favorite color. Is pink, the color pink, part of the reasons that this film has been successful? Maybe. It sounds a bit dumb, doesn't it? But, we've got to look at all of this. Barbie will make $1 billion, would have brought in $1 billion just under 2 weeks after its release. Now, the question I want to ask today, could Barbie make $2 billion? I believe it's realistic in the speed it's making money. I never saw this happening. I thought it was a dumb idea to greenlight a Barbie movie. But Margot Robbie is now a prolific actor-producer. She learnt a lot of lessons from Birds of Prey. She went and brought in one of the best directors around, and Greta Gerwig is a really, really good director. Without Greta, I don't think this film makes the money that it's been doing. So there's a lots of different reasons why Barbie is making so much money and is exciting people. But as I say, what are the further lessons to be learned here? That movies should be celebrated, movies should be fun, and the marketing should be fun. The marketing was fun. The only negative element was Mattel saying it wasn't a feminist movie, and Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig and the studio saying it is a feminist movie. I don't know whether you label this as a feminist movie, but I think what I like about Margot Robbie, she's not very vocal about her feminism. She doesn't go on the attack. She's a very private person. She's not on Twitter, or she may be on Twitter, but she doesn't post. I think she's also on Instagram, but she's not a social media animal. And I think that's important. People like Margot Robbie, even though she's a feminist. And, you know, I haven't seen Barbie, and maybe I'll see it when it's out on digital. Right now, I'm not really in the zone to go and watch that movie. It's not my type of movie. Now, I knew exactly what Barbie was going to be from the very beginning. I pre-warned people what Barbie was going to be. But I've been told what this movie is and what this movie is about. I've read detailed reviews, so I know exactly what this movie is. Yes, there's a lot of feminist commentary in this movie, but from what I can gauge from the movie, the feminism commentary was actually handled very well. Now, you can make your own mind up and, you know, decide for yourselves whether Barbie is a feminist movie or not. I think it's more about a human rights movie. I think there's more human rights commentary in Barbie, you know, and I think they look at kind of male rights as well as female rights, and we look at the divide between men and women. I was born in 1972, so I know the hideous way that women have been treated, especially in the entertainment industry. And I've tried to educate people to say, when Hollywood talk about the patriarchy, they're not talking about you and they're not talking about me. They're talking about the men in Hollywood, because men who run Hollywood have committed disgusting acts against women. There's no question about that. So when they're screaming patriarchy and sexual harassment, they're not talking about you and they're not talking about me. They're talking about their own industry, because they've had to face horrible attitudes and horrible harassment from men running that industry. And it's only been recently that women have had a voice in Hollywood. Barbie doesn't change the world. The world will continue exactly as it was. But I do feel the feminist commentary was handled very, very well in a not an aggressive way like, you know, activist Hollywood has handled it in the past. But the key to this movie being successful is that the marketing wasn't negative. It was celebratory. There's no question about that. There was no secret that there was going to be a lot of feminist commentary in Barbie, because Barbie has always been a type of girl power feminist icon. She has. There's no question about that. There's no denying that. And so I think that a lot of people have gone to see this film. You know, you don't make nearly $1 billion on a movie if just women are going to see this movie, if just feminists are going to see this movie. As I've already said, I didn't see this movie being successful. I thought it was a dumb idea, and I just thought it was another movie with a bunch of feminist propaganda, and it was going to be here we go again. But that's not the case, because I've had friends and family members say, Mick, this is a great movie. We had a good time with this movie. And I support you having a good time with this movie, even though this movie and its messaging isn't for me. And that's okay. Everything doesn't have to be for me at the end of the day. But this movie is successful and it is interesting. And Oppenheimer is also successful. Why is Oppenheimer less successful? It's R-rated, 3 hours long, less screenings, less viewings. That's the key here. But Oppenheimer is beating all kind of R-rated movie records. It's a great biopic, and congratulations to Universal and Christopher Nolan on that. But this should be a celebratory time for cinema and for Hollywood, considering, as I said on the top of the show, that these are non-superhero movies. For years now, everyone's been depressed because unless it's a superhero movie, there doesn't seem to be any traction at the box office. And that, if you're an artist, that's very, very depressing, because no one wants to constantly make movies about the same thing. You know, they didn't want to keep on making Westerns. They didn't want to keep on making Star Wars films. They didn't want to keep on making Indiana Jones films. And, you know, there's only so much you can do with the model of the superhero. I love superheroes. I've loved superheroes ever since I saw Superman the movie as a young boy. But I want to see more from cinema. And I think that's very, very important. And what Barbie and Oppenheimer have done, and this studio marketing has done, it's kicked the door wide open and said, we can do anything as long as we execute it in the right way. And Barbie is more than a feminist movie. As I say, I don't think it's a feminist movie. I think it's from what I've read and what I've heard from people, it's a hugely entertaining movie with some feminist commentary. Now, I saw a review on YouTube from that Star Wars girl saying the movie isn't for her and it betrays everything that Barbie has always been. And, you know, the whole thing that Ken's just Ken and he's just an accessory. Listen, if you want to be upset by all of that, that's entirely up to you. Or you can go and celebrate an entertaining movie. Because from what I'm hearing, that's exactly what it is. And people are going back to watch this movie. So it's a hugely exciting time to be part of cinema. That people are going to watch these movies and celebrating what they're seeing and being excited about what they're seeing. And as I say, even though Barbie isn't for me, and I always knew what Barbie was going to be, and from the beginning I was triggered by that, you've got to give credit to Margot Robbie. She put a great team together. She's kept her mouth shut. She's been utterly positive. She's done her marketing drive. She goes back and gets, you know, the well-earned rest that she deserves. It's a massive moment. It's a massive moment for Warner Brothers. Because if you look at Warner Brothers, a lot of people were celebrating the fact that The Flash bombed, and this meant that maybe Warner Brothers were in big trouble. Warner Brothers is a beast. You can't just destroy Warner Brothers because it has a few failures. But if we look at the releases in the past few years, in fact, Warner Brothers have done quite well. It's only with DC that Warner Brothers have actually struggled. When we look at Creed 3, we look at Elvis, we look at Barbie. You know, Dune 2 will be a very successful film. I foresee that making 750 to 800 million, maybe $1 billion. Who knows? That film will be hugely successful. I don't know if it gets delayed or not. We'll have to wait and see. Warner Brothers are telling me no. They're not planning on delaying that movie. So that will be very, very interesting as well. But we have a peak situation here. And what a shame that this is in the middle of Hollywood being on its knees. Because as I say, if this was on any other given week, this would be cause for celebration. But Hollywood don't feel they have much to celebrate right now because this industrial action could go on for more than a year because there's no end in sight. What is the true motivation of this industrial action? Why are Hollywood refusing to pay the writers and actors what they deserve? I believe they're trying to drive out the creatively bankrupt people they gave jobs. And something else has developed in the past few hours. We have now heard from August the 1st that they will cancel first look deals for writers. So these Hollywood studios are not messing about. They're being ruthless. They're using this as an excuse to purge the industry of the creatively bankrupt that they've given jobs to. And this may be to a lot of people an utterly controversial thing to say. I think this is a really, really good thing. And as I said before, when these strikes are over, I think Hollywood will be in a much stronger position than it is now. They have made so many mistakes with the people they brought into the business. And that's why they're, on their knees. When you look at Barbie, when you look at Greta Gerwig, you look at Margot Robbie, you look at the people who made that movie possible. Fine actors like America Ferrera, who played Ugly Betty. Brilliant monologue in that film, I'm being told, as well from America. I've always had a lot of time for America. She's great. I'm a big Ugly Betty fan. But what you can see is when you execute a film properly, when you make it fun, when you make it entertaining, then you can have your message there as well. That's the point. We've seen great movies with great messaging, whether it's Casualties of War, Born on the 4th of July, Little Women, whatever film that's got messaging. When the film is executed in the right way, and you're not bashing people over the head with a hammer. I don't believe that's what Barbie's doing here. There's enough fun, enough non-feminism commentary from what I'm hearing to say, yeah, they've got a little bit of commentary here, and that's okay. Because there is a place for feminism in our world if it's not cruel, if it's not unkind, and if it's not mean-spirited. And I think we do live in a very interesting time. Because if you go on Twitter, there's women talking feminism, you know, about the patriarchy. But if you go on Instagram, there's young women jumping up and down so their breasts wobble, so you buy their content as a straight guy. So certainly not all women are on the same page, and I wouldn't expect them to be. So there's activists out there, there's non-activists out there, but we do need to move away from the culture war, because Hollywood movies and TV and entertainment in general has always had political messaging, but it's always been the quality of the execution of that messaging. We look at Doctor Who, there was a lot of complaints from the Chibnall era and the political commentary in that. You go back to Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat, sometimes you couldn't even tell, you know, at first glance that there was political messaging in their stories. There was a lot, but it's just there, and it says, this is what I think, you the audience member make your own mind up, where Chibnall was smashing your head over the hammer. That's the modern way of doing things. It's shaving against the grain, it upsets people, and this is why the entertainment industry finds itself in the position it's in right now. And that has to change, you know, because they are in very serious trouble right now. And as I say, it's ironic right now as Hollywood is on its knees that they've got this Barbieheimer situation. All of a sudden, it's fashionable to go to the cinema and watch Barbie and watch Oppenheimer. That hasn't happened for a long time. It hasn't been fashionable to go to the cinema since Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. It hasn't been consistently fashionable to go to the cinema. The cinema is a great medium. It's a great model. It's a language we all understand. We can sit there together and celebrate a great work of art, a great piece of storytelling. And to think that Hollywood tried to take that away from us, tried to take that away from theatre owners and the public, and lock us in our homes and make us watch streaming instead of letting us go to cinemas to enjoy things. I'm not talking about the COVID lockdowns, by the way. They tried to take the cinematic experience away from us. And fate, karma, whatever, has led streaming down another path, a path of destruction. Streaming will not be the future. As I said in yesterday's video, cinemas are the future and physical media are the future. Now, they don't know what to do with streaming. I don't care what they do with streaming. They can shove it up their backsides, because the model that we've been celebrating, even before I was born and even before you were born, was the cinematic model. It works. It's pay as you go, and when you deliver something good to cinema screens, you're going to make money, like they're making money with Barbie and Oppenheimer, two varied movies that are fantastic for different reasons. And that's the point, and that's why it's worth celebrating. Do I think that Barbie will make $2 billion? Yes, I do. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. It's something we didn't expect, and it's going to be huge for Warner Brothers Discovery. And again, credit to David Zaslav. He has been talking about cross-studio relationships a lot. He's been talking about that with streaming as well. It takes a very mature person and an intelligent person to say, we can't sit in our own bubble. We need to help each other. When your industry is in trouble, you can't stay in your separate companies and, you know, be an echo chamber. You need to help each other. And this is what Universal and Warner Brothers did with Barbieheimer. Whoever came up with the idea is a fucking genius. Because movie marketing for too long has been very robotic and very dull and very uncivilized and very negative. And what Barbie did, and Barbieheimer especially, said, we're celebrating two movies. We're from different studios, but we can come together. And the reason they came together was to celebrate cinema, to save cinema, because they know, the studios know, that cinema is the future. Because if Barbie does make $2 billion, it shows you that the power of cinema is still alive and well. And it's been something that hasn't been there for a very long time consistently. I've spoke about how things went wrong cinematically in the early noughties. Now, obviously, we had Lord of the Rings from WB, the Dark Knight trilogy from WB, the Harry Potter franchise from WB. So that was huge for them back then, but it was the individual movies that weren't really there in the noughties. And there wasn't enough consistency, and they went to franchises and left behind the individual movie experience, and that really hurt them. So I don't think franchises are going anywhere, but to kind of enact a franchise, you have to be successful. People have to be invested. And while Barbie has shown that there is investment in the Mattel universe, people are interested in the Mattel universe. Now, whether, you know, the other aspects of Mattel can be as popular as Barbie, we're going to have to wait and see, because Barbie is probably one of the most famous characters they have on their books. But you've still got to bring talented people to make these movies, because you can't just shove Barbie's name on it and hope for the best. There was a lot of talks in the past about other people making a Barbie movie. Margot Robbie put a great team together, and it worked. I never thought, I'm being like honest about this, I never thought this was going to work. But the numbers for Barbie are sensational. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you see something being successful, even if it's something you don't particularly like or don't like the way it's been fashioned, you have to be honest, you have to congratulate people, because cinema needed this. Cinema was desperate for this, but we're in a really mixed time in entertainment. As a content creator, I don't know what way to look from day to day, what to talk about from day to day, because there's nothing really going on in the industry, and I really don't want to keep on boring on about the industrial action, because after a time, that's something that doesn't motivate me, and I'm sure will not motivate you either. But despite the industry being in such trouble, the Barbie and Oppenheimer situation is something to celebrate. It's very, very odd. It's very odd for an industry to be in such an all-time low, but to have this, I suppose, paradigm shift, because Barbie and Oppenheimer are a paradigm shift. It does change things. It does open the door. It does officially say that superheroes are not the dominant force anymore. I personally think, even as a superhero fan, that's a very, very good thing, because you can have too much of a good thing. And what we've seen in the past few years is one genre just being made, and it's superheroes this, superheroes that. People are going to get bored in the end. You need variety. You need to excite people. Marketing is very, very important. And in the past, we've had very ambitious marketing. I'll never forget the marketing for Batman '89. It was everywhere. Prince was everywhere. Nicholson was everywhere. Keaton was everywhere. And it was very inventive marketing. Just like the Barbie and Barbieheimer marketing has been very inventive. I can't remember a cross-studio marketing like this before. I can't remember any cross-studio marketing ever in the industry before. Let me know if you can remember any cross-studio marketing. It's odd, it's weird, but it's worked. And it just goes to show you, when you step outside the routines of your industry and attempt to do something different, and you take a few risks, then you can win, and win big. And this is something that Hollywood isn't really keen on. Change. The problem with Hollywood and their studios, they're run by very, very old men stuck in their ways. But someone, either at Universal or WB or at both studios, had an idea to cross-purpose their marketing. And it worked. And it was positive marketing. And they left the negativity at the door. And that's half of the major reason why Barbie and Oppenheimer are successful. But also, good movies. Entertaining movies. Movies should be fun. Movies should be entertaining. Movies should be educational. And that's the whole point that I'm making today. There's money rolling in for Barbie and Oppenheimer, by the way. It's probably one of the best summers in Hollywood history. And what I like about this, it's like the old-fashioned summers we were used to, when movies were released in July, were released in August. Now, interestingly, the big victim of Barbieheimer has been Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning. Why is that? Because look, Mission Impossible has its fans, it makes money, but it's never been big, big, big. It's always made money, but not the kind of money, not MCU money. It's always been a successful franchise. Don't get me wrong. So Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible 7 was always going to be the victim here. And Paramount certainly made a mistake in releasing it when it did. I think they should have waited till August. And I don't know why they thought that they wouldn't fall foul of Barbieheimer. But considering not even I knew that both these films, you know, Barbie and Oppenheimer, would be so successful, then how can we expect Paramount to know it? Well, they should know where their land lies because they're inside of the industry and we're not. So what does the future hold after the strikes? Movies with variety, positive marketing, and messaging that can be there but not bashing your head, you know, not bashing you over the head with a mallet. And I think that's what's very important here. This is a moment to savor. This is a moment to enjoy. We haven't had this in entertainment for a very long time. The old-fashioned blockbuster, fun movies. You know, a fun, bright pink movie like Barbie, and then something gritty and dark like Oppenheimer. It's called variety, everyone. You can't just live off one genre like this industry has been attempting to do for the past 10 years. You know, superheroes had a good ride, but the party's over. And anyone who can't see the party's over is deluding themselves, because it is. Superhero movies will always be there. That's right. They're just going to have to be more selective than the ones, you know, than the ones they've been making thus far. WB are going to have to reevaluate James Gunn's DCU plan. I think that's important. And Disney and Marvel Studios have got horrible decisions to make because they can't keep on releasing the stuff they're planning to release because they're failing. People are disinterested in the MCU. One of the problems with Phase 4, of course, is not just the messaging. It's actually the cheap, lazy execution of the films and the streaming shows. That's the real problem with the MCU. And it's there to be seen. And they're not changing what they're doing. It's this stubbornness that they can get through this. You can't. The game is up. The superhero genre dominating entertainment is over. Barbie is here. Oppenheimer is here. June is coming. Joker Folie à Deux is coming. A variety of movies. We have the latest Scorsese movie that Apple TV have produced as well. You know, is it something of the Flower Moon or whatever that is? That looks utterly brilliant. Again, movies with variety of tones. This is what we've lacked in the past few years. This is what people want to see. They want to see auteurs making their movies. I mean, it's crazy that an auteur like Greta Gerwig directed a Barbie movie. That's insane. Let that sink in for a minute. It took Barbie just about a week to destroy the box office of Man of Steel. Again, let that sink in. Depressing viewing and depressing emotions if you're a Superman fan like me. They did something right. It's as simple as that. And I think the lessons to be learned is to look at how these movies were made, but not just that, how these movies were marketed. That's the key element of the success of Barbieheimer.